Welcome, esteemed gentlemen. The most powerful man in the room is often the one who says the least. In a world obsessed with dominance and loud displays of power, the Sigma man slips through the crowd, leaving a trail of questions, envy, and maybe a touch of unease in his wake. Unlike the Alpha who takes the stage with chest out and chin high, the Sigma lurks in the shadows, uninterested in praise or applause, and that's precisely what makes him so dangerously captivating. Here's a fact to chew on. Studies show that people are far more intimidated by unpredictability than by outright aggression. The Sigma man lives this principle effortlessly. He's the one who doesn't quite fit the mold, yet still commands the room with an invisible force. He's like the proverbial cat who doesn't come when called. And if you think he'll jump just because the crowd demands it, think again. Now buckle up, because we're diving into why Sigma men are more than just lone wolves. They're the mysterious outliers whose presence alone can change the entire game. Number 1. Projects, an aura of potential danger. Sigma. Men have this quiet, almost simmering energy that can feel like potential danger, even if they're completely harmless. It's not that they're looking for trouble, but something about them suggests they could handle it if it came their way. They're often so calm and collected that people sense there's a lot more beneath the surface, like they're holding back a level of intensity they don't need to show. This controlled presence is what makes others feel on edge around them, wondering what might happen if that calm exterior ever cracked. The fact that Sigma men are so comfortable with themselves adds to this effect. They're usually self-assured and unbothered by others' opinions, which makes people wonder if there's something they're not seeing. Unlike someone trying to prove they're tough, the Sigma doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. That effortless confidence comes across as mysterious, and because he's not openly expressive, people project all sorts of ideas onto him. He's the guy who could just as easily be meditating in the park as plotting his next unpredictable move. He's not, but people can't help but imagine it. This air of contained intensity is powerful, almost magnetic. It's the kind of energy that doesn't need to shout to get noticed. People feel both fascinated and wary, and it keeps them guessing. A Sigma man's quiet reserve is like an unsolved riddle. Others want to know more, yet they're unsure if they really want the answer. And that's the irony. By being so low-key, he becomes the person no one can ignore. He's not here to cause chaos, but there's always that lingering question in everyone's mind. What if? And that's all it takes to keep everyone watching, just a little bit nervous, and absolutely intrigued. At number 2, never fully available. They're always working on themselves. Sigma men have an uncanny ability to always seem partly out of reach, like they're only halfway present even when they're right there with you. This isn't because they're ignoring you or playing games. It's because they're constantly occupied by something else, a project, a new skill, or an idea they're trying to master. They're the type who's always learning, always thinking, and always pushing their own boundaries. And that kind of focus can make them feel, well, elusive. Others might struggle to get his full attention because his mind is often somewhere deeper, drilling into a new passion or perfecting something few people even understand. It's unsettling to people who expect easy access or demand constant attention. A Sigma's inner world is so rich and well protected that you might get a glimpse of it now and then, but that's about it. When he does give you his attention, you know it's real, because he's chosen to let you in for that moment. But in a way, it's like trying to catch a rare bird in the wild. Just as you get close, he's back to his own pursuits, leaving you wondering where he went. What's funny is that while some people chase popularity or friendships to feel complete, the Sigma doesn't rely on anyone for his sense of worth. His self-focus isn't selfish. It's more of a dedication to growth that simply doesn't leave much room for the superficial. He knows that constantly working on himself means he can offer something truly valuable to the world, even if it's on his own terms. And whether people get it or not, he doesn't mind. He's perfectly fine knowing he might always be a little too busy for everyone else's comfort. Number 3, indifferent to being liked, which makes people want their approval even more. Sigma men have a remarkable superpower. They don't care if you like them. Seriously, they're almost allergic to seeking approval. While most people spend a good chunk of their lives trying to be noticed, liked, or admired, the Sigma is, quite frankly, unbothered. This attitude throws people off entirely because we're wired to chase validation. When someone doesn't give us even a hint of interest, it makes us want to impress them even more. The Sigma knows this, and though he's not actively exploiting it, the effect on others can be mesmerizing. There's something about a man who doesn't need anyone's thumbs up that gets under people's skin. Think about it. Most of us can't resist the urge to check for those likes or read into people's reactions. But when it comes to a Sigma, you could parade an achievement right under his nose, and he might just give you a polite nod before going back to what he was doing. This indifference is magnetic, and before you know it, people find themselves working twice as hard to earn even a flicker of the Sigma's attention. What's truly unnerving is that no matter what you do, a Sigma's opinion of you isn't likely to change, and he probably won't let you know what it is anyway. People get trapped in an odd cycle, trying to impress him, realizing he's not noticing, and trying harder. It's like he has an invisible force field of mystery, and everyone wants to break through. And that's the Sigma's paradox. By not trying to be liked, he becomes the one everyone wants to win over. He's not chasing anyone, yet everyone is running after his attention like it's a limited edition luxury they can't afford to miss. At number 4, strategic loners with selective alliances. Sigma men don't take relationships or alliances lightly. They treat them as carefully as if they're making a major investment decision. Unlike most people who might form connections for convenience, popularity, or habit, Sigmas look for real value. To them, alliances are about mutual benefit, growth, and genuine respect. If a Sigma chooses to let someone in, that person can be sure it's intentional. It's not because the Sigma needs a crowd or wants to fill time. It's because he sees something substantial and worth his energy. This selectiveness makes Sigma men both fascinating and intimidating. Others know that if a Sigma chooses to spend time with them or offer support, it's a rare privilege. Sigmas don't waste time on shallow or meaningless bonds, so being part of their inner circle feels like validation. But there's a flip side to that loyalty. If someone proves to be disloyal, draining, or untrustworthy, the Sigma will cut ties without a second thought. His loyalty is strong but never blind. He values honesty and integrity, and if those aren't returned, he's out. It's this combination of exclusivity and unpredictability that makes Sigma men so intriguing. People feel honored to have earned his respect, but also aware that it can vanish if they cross certain lines. A Sigma's relationships feel solid and meaningful because they are based on mutual respect, but they're also always just a little fragile, with the understanding that loyalty is a two-way street. This high standard keeps others on their toes, making them value the Sigma's presence all the more, knowing he won't hesitate to walk away if the alliance loses its worth. Number 5. Mastery over their own desires. Sigma men are unique in that they've learned to master their own desires, rather than let their desires control them. While most people spend their lives reaching for something, power, money, social approval, a Sigma approaches life differently. He knows what he wants, but isn't blindly driven by it. This makes him seem almost invincible because he's immune to the usual temptations and traps that lure most people in. It's hard for others to get a handle on someone who doesn't want what everyone else wants. Sigmas don't waste time seeking validation or the next big status symbol. They simply don't need it. They don't crave attention, so there's no point in trying to manipulate them with social pressure. They're unimpressed by shallow rewards because they find meaning in their own internal goals and principles. This level of self-control can be both confusing and intimidating to others, who are often caught up in the endless cycle of wanting more. If someone tries to dangle power, money, or approval in front of a Sigma to sway him, they're likely to be disappointed. He's not playing the same game. His desires are his own, and he's not willing to compromise his values just to keep up with society's ever-changing definition of success. This refusal to be tempted or manipulated leaves people feeling like they're up against an unbreakable wall. It's not that the Sigma is cold or indifferent. He's simply operating on a different frequency. one where he alone defines what's valuable. This independence makes him incredibly powerful, because he's not chasing anything that others can offer. And that, to many, makes him nearly untouchable. Number 6, their presence makes people question themselves. Sigma men have a way of holding up a mirror to everyone around them without even trying. By living completely on their own terms and refusing to conform to social norms, they naturally make people question their own choices. It's as if their very presence says, "Are you really doing what you want, or just what's expected of you?" They don't need to say it out loud. Just by existing outside the typical social scripts, they prompt others to think about why they're so attached to fitting in. This is what makes people feel unsettled around a Sigma. They're used to seeing others who care about social approval, who follow the same paths and unspoken rules. But the Sigma operates independently, setting his own standards and following his own direction, which can be both fascinating and a bit intimidating. He doesn't need the comfort of the crowd, and that quiet, self-sufficient attitude forces others to look at their own choices. It's easy to go along with the herd until you're faced with someone who has chosen not to, and is thriving because of it. Being around a Sigma man can make people feel the gap between who they are and who they want to be. His confidence isn't loud or boastful, yet it has a way of amplifying insecurities in others. Some might feel inspired, questioning their own lives in a way that leads to growth. But others may feel defensive, threatened by his independence because it reminds them of their own hidden doubts. Sigmas don't set out to make people question themselves, but they do simply by refusing to follow the script, shining a subtle yet powerful spotlight on everyone else's unexamined choices. Number 7, rarely seek out praise, so they seem superior. Sigma. Men have a rare quality that stands out in a world where so many are desperate for recognition. They don't need applause. While others may subtly, or not so subtly, crave praise, validation, or a pat on the back, the Sigma is content just moving in his own direction, regardless of who's watching. He doesn't seek admiration, which ironically makes him even more admired. There's something magnetic about a person who doesn't need anyone else's approval. It's a confidence that feels effortless and real, and people can't help but be drawn to it. This silent, self-assured quality makes others respect him even more, though sometimes with a tinge of envy or resentment. People see in him a calmness that highlights their own insecurities. Where most people might feel an itch for validation, the Sigma remains unbothered. He's not constantly checking if people notice him. He's busy setting his own path. This can stir something uncomfortable in others because, deep down, they recognize how much they depend on approval. Standing next to someone who is so unaffected can amplify their own neediness in a way that's almost unsettling. What makes this dynamic even more interesting is that the Sigma's lack of interest in praise isn't arrogance. He's not above recognition. He just genuinely doesn't need it to feel fulfilled. And in an unexpected twist, the very quality that makes him seem distant and superior only attracts more admiration. He's proof that true confidence doesn't have to be loud or obvious. It just is. And this humble confidence, this ease in himself, makes him seem almost untouchable, a man who commands respect without even trying. People want to be around him, but they're left wondering if they could ever truly reach that same level of self-assured independence. Number 8, exceptional ability to see through people. Sigma men have an almost eerie ability to see right through people, like they have a built-in lie detector. They don't just observe surface-level behavior, they read the subtext, the body language, and the subtle cues others miss. It's as if they have an uncanny radar for detecting hidden motives and intentions, and this makes them both fascinating and intimidating. They can spot a phony or manipulative person within minutes, and unlike most people who might brush it off, the Sigma doesn't hesitate to trust his instincts. He knows when someone is being disingenuous, and he's often right. This exceptional perception is unsettling, particularly for those who rely on masks and pretenses to get what they want. People with hidden agendas quickly feel the pressure when a Sigma is around because they know he can sense the dissonance between their words and their true intentions. The Sigma doesn't need to call attention to it or expose anyone. His mere presence is enough to make people second-guess their actions. For someone who is trying to pull the wool over others' eyes, the Sigma is like an immovable force that demands authenticity. He won't play along with games or manipulation. What makes this trait so intimidating is that the Sigma doesn't need to say much. He doesn't announce that he knows you're being fake, but you'll feel it in the way he engages with you. He's unspoken but sharp, and his silence is often more piercing than any direct confrontation. This perceptiveness makes him seem almost untouchable, like there's no way to hide anything from him. And this sense of vulnerability can rattle even the most confident of people. Simply put, Sigma men have the rare ability to cut through the noise and see people for who they truly are. And that's a power that's as unnerving as it is impressive. Number 9. Unshakable moral compass. Sigma. Men operate with an unshakable moral compass that guides every decision they make regardless of the circumstances. While many people might bend their principles to fit the situation, whether to avoid conflict, gain an advantage, or simply make life easier, the Sigma refuses to waver. Their personal ethics are not negotiable, and they adhere to them with a quiet but firm determination, even when it's inconvenient or costly. This moral steadfastness can be incredibly unsettling to those around them, because it highlights a level of integrity that's rare in a world where compromise is often the norm. For people who are used to adjusting their values based on what's practical or beneficial in the moment, the Sigma's unwavering commitment to his principles can be jarring. It serves as a subtle reminder that there's an alternative to constantly shifting morals for personal gain. People might try to push the Sigma to compromise, manipulate him into bending, or convince him that his ethics are outdated or impractical, but he won't be swayed. His integrity is a cornerstone of who he is, and no amount of pressure can change that. What makes this so intimidating is that, for many, it's difficult to comprehend someone who chooses the hard right over the easy wrong. In a world where shortcuts are often celebrated, the Sigma's refusal to take them makes him seem almost unbreakable. It's as if he exists on a different plane where moral clarity and strength are paramount, and he won't let anything, no matter how tempting or convenient, make him compromise on his principles. This rock-solid ethical stance creates a quiet but powerful aura of respect around him, while simultaneously making others question their own moral flexibility. Number 10. Fearless in embracing his flaws. Sigma. Men are unafraid to confront their flaws head-on, and that honesty is what sets them apart. They don't put on the usual facade of perfection that so many others hide behind. Instead, they embrace their imperfections with unapologetic self-acceptance. Whether it's a past mistake, a weakness in their character, or something they've yet to improve, the Sigma doesn't shy away from it. In fact, he might even own up to these flaws before anyone else notices them, making it clear that they don't define him or undermine his confidence. This ability to stand firm in their imperfections is powerful, and it can be deeply intimidating to those who are constantly trying to mask their own insecurities. The Sigma doesn't need to be flawless to feel worthy. He simply owns who he is, flaws and all. This transparency and fearlessness in the face of imperfection can make others feel uneasy, because it forces them to confront their own insecurities and vulnerabilities. Most people are constantly running from their weaknesses, hiding them behind polished facades or pretending they don't exist. But the Sigma isn't concerned with appearances. What's particularly unsettling is that this kind of self-acceptance doesn't stem from arrogance or indifference. It comes from a place of deep inner peace and confidence. The Sigma doesn't need validation from others to feel complete because he's already accepted and valued himself, flaws and all. This level of self-assuredness makes others question their own relationship with their imperfections. It's a reminder that true strength comes from embracing, not hiding, who we really are, an idea that's as empowering as it is intimidating. In the end, Sigma men are intimidating not because they actively seek to dominate or control, but because they embody a rare and unapologetic authenticity that others often find difficult to comprehend. Their independence, self-assuredness, and unshakable principles create an aura of mystery and power that makes them stand apart from the crowd. They don't need validation, they don't follow trends, and they certainly don't hide their flaws. They own them. This fearlessness in being exactly who they are, without compromise, forces those around them to question their own motivations and actions. It's not about a desire for power, it's about an innate confidence in their own path, which makes them both magnetic and, at times, unnervingly out of reach. In a world full of people looking to fit in, be seen, or gain approval, the Sigma simply moves through life on his own terms, and that, in itself, is enough to leave a lasting impression. If you found yourself intrigued by the unshakable confidence and unique traits of Sigma men, then don't let this be your last encounter with their world. If you want more content that dives deep into what makes these fascinating individuals tick and how you can channel some of that Sigma energy yourself, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Join the community and stay tuned for more insights, powerful ideas, and strategies that will keep you ahead of the curve. You don't want to miss what's coming next, because in this world, only the boldest stay on top. Subscribe now, and let's keep exploring this journey together.